10 plane crash survivors were lost in the Mexican rainforest, with someone being murdered each day. When the military found them after 9 days, only 9 bodies were discovered. I couldn't guess who the killer was until the truth was revealed. If you think you can figure it out, feel free to try. On a small propeller plane flying from Guatemala to Houston, Amy is puzzled to see forest instead of ocean below. The flight attendant explains that the pilot sometimes chooses alternate routes to avoid bad weather. But what should have been a 3-hour flight has now lasted 4. In reality, the plane's GPS has completely malfunctioned, and the panicked pilot's distress calls to the control tower go unanswered. With fuel depleted, he desperately records a final message for his wife. As the plane rapidly loses altitude, passengers start to notice something's wrong. Before they can react, the propellers stop, and the plane plunges into the lush jungle. The dense branches cushion the impact, preventing the plane from breaking apart. All passengers, secured by seatbelts, are largely unharmed, except for the unfortunate flight attendant who doesn't make it.
Nothing you can do for her. That's a cervical fracture.
Passengers Kevin and Zach force open the cockpit door to find the pilot impaled by a thick branch. Realizing he's still breathing faintly, one of the men quickly pulls out the branch. By now, other passengers have opened the cabin door, but the engine has caught fire. Acrid smoke causes panic. The first man to jump out, instead of fleeing, rummages through the luggage compartment. Sonia, a seemingly capable female passenger, quickly grabs the cabin's fire extinguisher and puts out the flames.
You're not serious. What's in there that's so important to you? You could have got killed?
My things.
8 passengers and the pilot survive, though the pilot is severely injured. No one knows where they are, and cell phones have no signal. While everyone ponders how to seek rescue, the man who first escaped carefully inspects his luggage, arousing curiosity about its contents. Due to the hot, humid jungle climate, Sonja suggests moving the flight attendant's body away to prevent decay and avoid attracting animals. Her calm judgment reveals extensive outdoor survival experience. In contrast, Amy and her husband seem lost and panicked. Suddenly, Amy hears a twig snap, but sees only rustling bushes in the distance. Seeing Sonia enter the cabin, the fat lady follows, suspecting she's hoarding supplies. Sonia explains she's taking inventory to ration food and water for longer survival.
The plane will have its own water tank, if only for the toilet.
Well, we can't drink that.
Depends how quickly they find us.
The lady dismisses this, believing the airline will quickly send a rescue team once they realize the plane is missing. Meanwhile, Kevin and Zach find a hollow to place the flight attendant's body. Before they can catch their breath, they learn the pilot's condition is worsening. In great pain and struggling to breathe, he manages to tell them the crash was due to GPS failure. Seeing his agony, Zach urges Kevin, a doctor, to help.
Who told you I was a doctor?
Faced with Kevin's puzzled look, Zach explains that Kevin had earlier mentioned the flight attendant's cervical fracture, a medical term.
Anyone else would say she had a broken neck.
So what are you, a detective?
Kevin reluctantly admits he was a doctor, but isn't anymore. He diagnoses the pilot with a pneumothorax, requiring open chest surgery. However, lacking proper medical equipment, Kevin refuses to take the risk. With no alternatives, the others can only pray for quick rescue. As the sun sets, Zach suggests everyone introduce themselves to facilitate cooperation for survival. Zach is an insurance investigator who just wrapped up an arson fraud case. It's no wonder he has such a keen eye for detail that he deduces Kevin's medical background. Amy and Dan are newlyweds returning from their honeymoon. Travis and Lisa are an American couple who own a chain of motels and are on vacation. Their condescending attitude towards others hints at racist tendencies. Sonia is reluctant to share about herself, only mentioning she's traveling.
You work?
Why are you asking me these questions? What do you want to know? I don't want to answer your questions. You okay with that?
Sure, yeah. She seems to have a troubled past. Kevin, formerly a doctor, now sells medical equipment. Lastly, there's Carlos, a Mexican wrestler headed to the US for a match in 3 days, explaining how he easily kicked open the cabin door earlier. Zach's professional instincts kick in as he analyzes their situation. Their only hope for rescue is the plane's emergency locator transmitter if it wasn't damaged in the crash. The pilot's mention of GPS failure indicates he was navigating by map and compass, so they can use the map tomorrow to determine their location. The fact that the plane caught fire but didn't explode after crashing suggests the fuel tank was empty, leaving them without fuel. Zach advises collecting cabin cushions and blankets for the night.
Here's a question. Who put you in charge?
Zach retorts that if Kevin were willing to treat the pilot, he'd have the right to lead. Kevin defensively explains he can't risk the pilot dying during surgery. To prevent an argument, Lisa changes the subject to water and food. They're down to 15 bottles of water, some veggie salads, and fruit cups, clearly not enough to sustain 9 people for long. They'll need to forage tomorrow. Before eating, Travis pops his heart meds. He's got enough for 6 days, which should be plenty if rescue comes soon. Suddenly, the pilot's coughing worsens, his pneumothorax getting worse. Amy can't stand by idly and scolds everyone for giving up without trying to save the pilot. This particularly stings Kevin, who, after hesitating, finally agrees to perform emergency surgery. He instructs Sonia and Zach to prepare half a gallon of boiling water, antibiotic ointment, and bandages from the first aid kit, and a bottle of vodka. Kevin has some tools in his bag, but lacks the crucial scalpel.
You have this.
Okay. That'll do, yeah.
Travis offers his knife, raising Zach's suspicions about why a motel owner carries a hunting knife. Kevin cuts open the pilot's shirt, exposing the wound. Without proper disinfectant, he sterilizes the knife with boiling water. He takes a swig of vodka to steady his nerves, using the rest to disinfect the pilot's wound and his own hands. With no anesthetic, the pilot bites down on Zach's belt.
And it might be fatal. Just remember, you wanted me to do this. I'm not promising anything.
Kevin makes another disclaimer, hinting at past troubles in his medical career. He then inserts the knife between the pilot's ribs to release the trapped air. The screams echoing through the dense forest are chilling. Amy and her husband, hiding in the cabin, are terrified. Amy again senses a watching presence, but only sees distant rustling bushes. As Carlos walks alone into the forest, the Travis couple eyes his suitcase, wondering what was so valuable that he risked his life to save it from the fire. Lisa tries to open it, but finds it locked.
Goddamn Latino.
Meanwhile, Kevin finishes the surgery, but can't guarantee against post-op infection or shock given the primitive conditions. It's all up to fate now. At night, everyone except Amy and Dan sleeps outside the stuffy cabin. Carlos exercises on a tree trunk, preparing for his wrestling match. A shadowy figure sneaks into the camp, first stealing Travis's heart medication, then forcefully pressing a piece of clothing over someone's face. The next morning, they find the pilot dead, his eyes bloodshot and face contorted. Kevin feels guilty, but is puzzled by the lack of infection or internal bleeding signs. Lisa seems to notice something, but keeps quiet.
You got any ideas?
How would I know?
Fast forward 8 days. In the Mexican desert, a pickup truck stops on a hill near a military camp. The driver pretends to fix the car while his female passenger observes the camp through binoculars. A chopper flies in, and she perks up.
Right on time.
One by one, body bags are unloaded and taken to the morgue. In an office, an officer has 10 passports on his desk, belonging to the folks on that ill-fated flight. Oddly, they've only recovered 9 bodies. It's hard to imagine what transpired over those 8 days. Who was the final survivor, and where did they go? Could they be the killer who murdered the other passengers? The woman spying on the camp seems to have anticipated this outcome. What's her connection to the killings? This first episode's got more questions than answers, leaving us chomping at the bit for what comes next. Buckle up, folks. This ride's just getting started. The man tosses a shoe into a puddle, but the next second, this is the treacherous and mysterious Mexican rainforest. The folks who dared to come here aren't your typical tourists. They're survivors of a plane crash. But the real danger isn't just the jungle. There's a killer among them, picking them off one by one. With the pilot now dead, only 8 passengers remain. Dr. Kevin is beating himself up. He thought the pilot died from post-op complications. To avoid the spread of disease from the decaying body, he and Zach haul it away. No one notices the pilot's phone slipping out of his pocket. No one except Dan. He snatches it up quick, looking sketchy as hell. Then he makes up some excuse about needing to take a shit and takes off, sneakily grabbing Kevin's hunting knife on his way out. Kevin and Zach place the pilot's body next to the flight attendants. 2 deaths in one day. Kevin's starting to freak out about their chances. He comes clean about why he was hesitant to do the surgery earlier. Back in the day, Kevin was a top-notch doc, until a girl had an allergic reaction to meds he prescribed. Her parents sued, and he lost everything. His job, his money, his family. Since then, he's been scared to take risks or get involved. After they leave, Dan sneaks back and cuts off the pilot's finger. He uses it to unlock the phone and changes the password. After checking out the photos, he tries to open the banking app, but it's locked too.
Oh, shit.
Dan's weird behavior suggests he might have some connection to the pilot. Could he be the killer? Sanja strikes up a conversation with Amy about her honeymoon with Dan. Weirdly, Amy looks totally confused, Like, she forgot all about telling everyone yesterday that she and Dan were on their honeymoon. Seems like she's hiding something too. While organizing the luggage compartment, Sonja stumbles upon a strange case. Travis jumps in to explain it's his sports gear, but who brings workout equipment on vacation? He's clearly not telling the whole story. Lisa pulls Travis aside and spills some tea. The pilot's death wasn't from the surgery, he was murdered. His purple lips and bloodshot eyes are telltale signs of suffocation. Lisa's seen bodies like this before. Kevin's not a forensic expert, so he wouldn't have caught it. Travis looks skeptical, but Lisa explains the killer's got a motive.
We have enough food and water to last 9 people for a few days, maybe.
Now there's 8 people.
Exactly.
Just as she's about to say more, they hear a twig snap behind them. Lisa clams up, worried someone might have overheard. Carlos and Zach dig up the emergency locator transmitter from the plane wreckage. It's working, but there's no signal. Carlos, who knows a thing or two about electronics, figures they need to extend the antenna or get it to higher ground. Since it's scorching hot and they're running low on water, Zach suggests waiting until sundown to look for food and water, then climbing the mountain with the transmitter before sunrise. Lisa and Travis help themselves to 2 water bottles without asking, which ticks Kevin off. But Lisa argues they're just taking their share before someone else can swipe it. Turns out she's onto something. Sonja soon discovers they're down to 5 bottles instead of 9, and half the food's gone too. Zach uses some wire to lock up the storage cabinet. They keep it on the down low to avoid everyone pointing fingers. Meanwhile, Travis realizes his heart meds are Maya. Lisa thinks he just misplaced them. Luckily, he's got some nitroglycerin as backup, as long as he keeps his heart rate steady. Amy, chilling with her husband, gets the creeps for the 3rd time, feeling like someone's watching. This time, she spots a face peeking at her from afar before it vanishes. She writes it off as stress-induced paranoia. As the sun sets, Zach leads the group into the jungle to forage. Once everyone's gone, Travis grabs his case and heads out with his wife. Kevin finds some mushrooms and is about to pick them when Sonia recognizes them as deadly poisonous. Dan stumbles upon a small pool and is ready to jump in for a swim when Carlos stops him, explaining it's a natural well, deep, and potentially home to who knows what. Zach tosses Dan's shoe in to prove the point.
Yo, what the fuck?
And it gets dragged under in a flash.
Fair enough.
Just then, they hear a gunshot nearby. Turns out Travis's case held a hunting rifle, and he's bagged 2 monkeys. Their Guatemala trip wasn't a vacation at all. They were there to poach rare animals.
Sports equipment.
Hunting is a sport.
Kevin's disgusted, but can't argue. Food is food when you're starving. Sonia uses a fire extinguisher tied to a rope to draw water from the well, but it's not safe to drink yet. She and Zach rig up a makeshift distillation system using hoses from the engine wreckage and oxygen masks from the cabin. With the water situation sorted, Lisa whips up dinner. The monkey meat sauce is pretty gross, and only Travis and his wife seem to enjoy it. Amy, used to the finer things, can't stomach it. Travis happily polishes off her portion. After seeing Travis's secret gun stash, Zach's suspicious about what Carlos might be hiding in his case, especially since he risked his life to save it from the fire. Faced with everyone's suspicion, Carlos finally unlocks his case with the key around his neck. Inside is his wrestling mask. Wrestling's his life's passion, and the mask is his identity. He was headed to the States for a big showdown with his rival. The match is in 2 days. Will he make it in time? In the dead of night, Travis feels a nasty rumble in his gut. Lisa figures he's just stuffed himself silly with monkey meat and hands him some water. Meanwhile, someone's sneaking around the cabin, using their phone's glow to search for something. A shadowy figure then pulls out a satellite phone from a gap between tree roots. Moments later, a woman picks up, the same one who was spying on the military transport of 9 bodies in the desert. Come morning, Lisa's screams jolt everyone awake. Travis is in a bad way, convulsing and foaming at the mouth. It's not his heart acting up, he's been poisoned. Kevin barks at Amy to grab some salt to make Travis throw up, but the storage cabinet's locked up tight with that wire. She can't get in. Before long, Travis stops breathing and his heart gives out. Lisa's a wreck, convinced someone deliberately poisoned her husband. Dan remembers those toxic mushrooms Sonia pointed out yesterday. Maybe that's what did Travis in. Lisa's even more sure now. Someone swiped Travis's heart meds and then poisoned him.
One of you's worked it out, haven't you? The fewer there are of us left, the more chance you have to survive.
Kevin still thinks it's just a freak accident, given Travis's health issues. To back up her theory, Lisa spills the beans about the pilot's murder. She used to work in hospice care and has seen old folks suffocated to death. The pilot looked just like that. She reckons both deaths were planned, probably to thin the herd and save resources. Her logic seems pretty sound, and panic starts to spread. Sonya's kicking herself, thinking if they hadn't locked up the supplies, they might have saved Travis. Zach tries to comfort her, saying Travis was too far gone by the time they realized what was happening. Then it hits Sonya. Travis ate Amy's dinner last night. Was Amy the real target? Zach has a light bulb moment and pries open the cabinet. All the food and water gone. Meanwhile, Dan shows everyone the pilot's last words on his phone. It's in Spanish, so Carlos translates. The pilot's freaking out about the crash, saying even if they survive the landing, he's a goner. He warns his wife to hide, saying they won't let them live. Seems the pilot knew he was toast. But who are they, and why do they want everyone on that plane dead?
One of us is a fucking killer.
So who's gonna be next?
Before sunrise, Carlos starts making a makeshift antenna for the emergency locator transmitter salvaged from the plane. The whole camp's on edge. Everyone knows there's a killer among them, except Amy. She naively comforts Lisa, suggesting her husband's death might have been a heart attack brought on by the heat. After all, these passengers are strangers. Why would they kill each other? But Lisa's convinced it's no accident. In her eyes, everyone's a suspect. Zach's cunning and rarely honest. Kevin, the doctor, keeps making excuses not to treat the pilot. Carlos mysteriously disappears into the woods alone. Sonya's hiding her background and knows too much about poisonous mushrooms. Lisa's most suspicious of Dan, doubting a driver's good intentions in eloping with a rich girl. Amy's upset, refusing to believe her husband's a bad guy.
You don't know anything about Dan, do you? How long have you known him?
Their chat ends on a sour note. Amy wanders into the jungle to clear her head. Suddenly, she hears footsteps and glimpses that face that's been watching her. When she comes to the figure in black's gone, maybe it was just her imagination. Carlos finishes the antenna. Now he needs to climb the mountain with the locator to send him SOS. Zach suggests he take a buddy for safety, but with everyone suspecting each other, no one's quick to trust. Finally, Kevin and Sonya volunteer to go with Carlos. On the climb, Carlos pops a piece of gum in his mouth. Sonya picks up the wrapper and realizes it matches the missing gum from their supplies. She figures out Carlos is the food thief, but keeps quiet. They take turns carrying the locator as they climb, but the terrain gets steeper near the top. At a cliff, Sonya almost falls, but Kevin grabs her arm just in time. Instead of getting to safety right away, Sonya reaches for the locator wedged between rocks. It's their only hope for rescue. Thanks to Carlos's strength, they make it to the summit safely. Looking around, they see nothing but endless jungle. There's no way they're getting out on their own. Carlos quickly sets up the antenna, using gum to secure it to the locator. When the signal light starts blinking, they finally breathe easy.
Lucky you had that gum.
Lisa's hunting for dinner with a gun when Zach approaches. She's immediately on guard. Everyone's a potential killer to her now. And Zach doesn't seem like a regular insurance investigator. Zach doesn't directly address her suspicions, just promising he means no harm. Lisa's words keep bugging Amy. To ease her mind, she cautiously brings up Lisa's accusations to Dan. Dan's face darkens, and his tone turns nasty.
What did she say?
She said that, it wouldn't end happily, you and me. She said that you might have killed Octavia and Travis.
Amy's never seen this side of her husband and starts crying. Dan, all worked up, claims he's just a poor driver with nothing but Amy. Realizing he's lost his cool, he quickly apologizes. Amy pretends she has a headache and asks him to get her meds from the plane. Once Dan's gone, Amy sneaks a look in his wallet and finds several business cards. They all have Dan's name but different jobs. Clearly, the driver gig is just one of his many fake identities. As night falls, Carlos and his group haven't returned. Dan's getting antsy, while Zach calmly roasts the coata Lisa hunted. To calm his nerves, Dan heads to the plane for the last bottle of whiskey, ignoring Zach's objections. Amy and Lisa share a look, seemingly plotting something. When Dan comes back, Amy's nowhere to be found. Zach has no clue where she went. Amy's actually hiding in the jungle, looking at those business cards, confused about Dan's lies. She feels someone behind her, but sees nothing when she turns. When Dan comes looking, Amy angrily confronts him with the cards. Dan claims they're from past jobs and begs Amy to trust him, promising to come clean once they're out of there. Carlos's group returns to camp, and they need to prep for the rescue. Kevin finds Dan and Amy arguing and calls them back for a meeting. Sonia suggests moving to open ground for easier helicopter spotting, but the others feel safer staying put.
Safer.
Though the shadow of death still looms, the thought of rescue tomorrow eases their fears a bit. That night, Carlos is working out in the woods as usual, oblivious to the dark figure approaching. Wearing Carlos's wrestling mask, the figure sneaks up. Caught off guard, Carlos becomes the fourth victim. The next morning, everyone freaks out when they realize Carlos is missing. Lisa's convinced he's been killed, and she's starting to lose it.
Oh, I wonder what it's gonna be this time. Another poison mushroom, another post-operative shot.
Christ's sake, can you turn it off?
One by one. They're coming for us, one by one.
Sonia spills the beans about Carlos stealing food from their stash, which raises more questions. Zach suggests they pair up to search for Carlos, but Kevin reminds them there's a bigger issue.
The helicopter. Why isn't it here?
Everyone goes quiet, knowing it's not normal that help hasn't arrived after a whole night. Zach can't figure out why they're all marked for death. Could the plane be hiding some secret that can't be revealed? He and Sonia search the cabin for clues, but come up empty-handed. By noon, there's still no sign of Carlos or the rescue helicopter. Zach thinks the locator might be busted, and Carlos, being the only one who could fix it, might have disappeared because of that. Sonia and Kevin decide to hike up the mountain again to check on the locator. The others plan a power nap before continuing the search for Carlos, but Zach sneaks off while everyone's asleep. Lisa, who's been keeping an eye on him, pretends to be asleep and follows him into the jungle. Meanwhile, Kevin and Sonia stop to catch their breath halfway up the mountain. As they're chit-chatting, Sunja spots a flock of vultures circling over a patch of jungle nearby. Sensing trouble, they rush down to investigate. Sure enough, they find Carlos's body being picked apart by the vultures. The heat's already started to rot the body, and the stench is enough to make your stomach turn. Back at camp, Amy wakes up from her nap to find everyone gone. Hearing rustling in the jungle, she grabs a sharp stick from the fire pit and cautiously approaches. She sees a person in black holding a gun, staring her down. In fear and anger, Amy charges at him.
Oh my god, Dad!
Turns out it was another of her hallucinations, like the time she felt someone watching her. Luckily, Dan's wound isn't deep. While Kevin's patching him up, he notices some numbers tattooed on Dan's back, but keeps quiet about it. Dan doesn't blame Amy, revealing that she has a mental illness. Amy survived a school shooting as a kid, which left her with some serious PTSD. She's been on meds, so her attack on Dan was probably triggered by a hallucination. Kevin figures out that Carlos's wounds were made by Travis's hunting knife. Sonia finds some hidden food nearby, confirming that Carlos was indeed the food thief. He was probably trying to stay in shape for his big wrestling match the next day. Carlos's death proves there's definitely a killer among them. Kevin suspects it might be the unstable Amy, but Sonia doesn't think she could have taken Carlos down.
It's not just a question of who, it's why.
The truth seems so close, yet so far. What they don't know is that they're not getting any rescue. Someone's already trashed the locator on the mountaintop. Late that night, with everyone fast asleep, the camp's dead quiet. A small lizard sneaks through a crack into a hidden compartment in the plane. The moonlight reveals neatly stacked bags of powder. This might be the reason why all the passengers are marked for death. 10 plane crash survivors are lost in the Mexican rainforest, with murders occurring daily. The flight attendant broke her neck during the crash landing. The severely injured pilot was smothered with clothes while sleeping. American redneck Travis died from poisonous mushrooms. A wrestler Carlos was hacked to death with a hunting knife in a night ambush. It's now the 6th day since the crash, with only 6 survivors remaining. Yet they still haven't identified the killer lurking among them. 3 days have passed since Carlos set up the signal transmitter on the mountaintop, but no rescue helicopter has appeared. With drinking water completely depleted, Kevin must distill water. In casual conversation, he nonchalantly mentions the tattoo he saw while bandaging Dan's wound. Such numerical tattoos are common only among prison gang members. Kevin's probing angers Dan, who raises his fist to strike. Others rush over hearing the commotion, while Lisa arrives with a hunting rifle and bears bad news. Her bullets were stolen, leaving only one in the gun. Clearly the killer hasn't stopped, as the rifle is their only means of hunting food.
They want us to die. And starvation's as good a way as any.
To clear suspicion, Dan admits to serving time for fraud, but claims he went straight after marrying Amy. He stole the pilot's phone, only for the money in his account. Kevin doubts his story but can't find a motive for murder. Lisa wanders alone in the jungle, seemingly searching for something. Her strange behavior catches Sana's eye. Still suspecting Zach, Lisa reveals seeing him sneak into the forest while others slept. She speculates he might be hiding something, like the murder weapon. As Sanya probes for details, a sudden thunderstorm forces everyone into the cabin. The stifling atmosphere makes them increasingly agitated. Amy seems to hallucinate again, seeing the gunmen who once hurt her. When rain starts leaking in, Sancha notices it takes a long time to penetrate, suggesting a possible compartment in the cabin roof. So Zach uses a crowbar to investigate. As white powder packages fall, Zach immediately identifies them as cocaine, accurately stating their market value.
$1,800 a kilo in Mexico. As much as $300 a gram in New York.
Sonia realizes the killer's motive, covering up the drug smuggling operation. She questions how Zach, an insurance investigator, knows so much about drugs. Before Zach can explain, Lisa notices Amy is missing. Dan rushes out to search, others following despite Zach's warnings. As he feared, their separation gives the killer an opportunity. By the pond, Amy sees the black-clad figure again, holding Travis's hunting knife. This time it doesn't seem to be a hallucination. As the figure approaches Amy, Lisa arrives with the rifle. Amy flees in a hurry, while the figure has to drop the knife at Lisa's gunpoint. With a blinding flash of lightning, the figure vanishes. Then he appears behind Lisa and strangles her neck tightly. The rain muffles Lisa's screams, and she soon dies. The number of victims increases again. Only 5 survivors remain. With panic intensifies, Coven and Dan even start fighting over Lisa's rifle. Suddenly, Sonia pulls out a pistol, aims at Zach, shocking everyone.
Saying this gun isn't yours?
It's mine.
Sonia reveals that Zach had sneaked into the woods to hide items. She had found the hiding place according to the clue provided by Lisa. There were not only Lisa's missing bullets, but also a pistol and even a satellite phone. But Zach, equally shocked, only admits the pistol is his. He confesses to being an undercover narcotics officer investigating a drug case, claiming his wallet contains proof. However, Kevin finds only cash inside. Zach believes the killer took his ID to frame him, but no one believes him. They're more concerned about the satellite phone's unlock code. Zach insists he's never seen the phone and doesn't know the code. An enraged Dan knocks Zach unconscious with the gun butt. With their only hope for rescue being the satellite phone, Dan suggests torturing Zach for the code. Despite Sana's objections, she has no choice since everyone else agreed. Through a draw, Coven is tasked with the interrogation, while others head to the mountaintop to check the signal transmitter. Even with Zach tied up, the distrust between them continues to grow, and they're wary of each other. On the mountaintop, they find the transmitter's antenna removed. Sonia quickly replaces it. Clearly someone doesn't want rescue. Was it Zach? Kevin beats Zach until he's exhausted and doesn't get the code, so he simply takes out the surgical forceps. As a doctor, he knows how to inflict unbearable pain. Meanwhile, the Mexican military detects the missing plane's signal. The Drug Enforcement Administration in Houston also learns this news, having long suspected the flight of drug trafficking. It seems Zach wasn't lying. He and his wife Claire are narcotics officers. Claire and her colleagues visit Cora, the manager of the small airline company operating the missing flight. Cora exactly is the person the killer contacted via satellite phone and who was secretly monitoring the Mexican military camp. Claire has verified the flight manifest, noting the pilot's history of drug use and suspiciously low ticket prices. Cora deflects, claiming ignorance as a hired manager, clearly lying, but Claire can't prove it yet. Worried for her husband's safety, Claire decides to investigate in Mexico herself. At night, Zach is suddenly awakened by footsteps. A figure with a dagger appears before him. Seeing it's Sonia, Zach is incredulous. Is she the real killer? But Sonia doesn't kill him. Instead, she cuts his bonds. After spending days together, she has a good impression of Zach and believes he shouldn't be tortured without concrete evidence. Zach promises to look out for Sonia in the shadows, believing the killer won't stop until everyone is dead.
Dan, Amy, Kevin. If one of them's killed, that leaves just 2 against 2.
But Sana refuses, no longer trusting anyone. The next day, discovering Zach's escape, the remaining 4 survivors disagree on what to do. Sonia believes the signal transmitter is working and they should stay put, waiting for rescue. Dan worries Zach is still lurking nearby, insists on hiding with Amy. Kevin is also unwilling to stay with the Sona who's holding the pistol. By now, the Mexican military has dispatched a helicopter to search the signal area. The 5 survivors, keeping their distance from each other, remain safe for now. Just as they think rescue is imminent, screams echo through the forest. Sonia arrives first and is shocked by the scene. Arriving next, Zach is speechless at Dan and Amy's horrific deaths. Last to arrive, Coven picks up Dan's rifle and aims at Sonia, convinced she and Zach killed the couple. He had guessed Sonia freed Zach from the cut ropes. Sonia argues that if she were the killer, she wouldn't have revealed the satellite phone and gun. As for Zach, with his toenails torn out, can barely walk let alone kill 2 people. Kevin also has reasons to defend himself. If he wanted everyone dead, he wouldn't have saved Sonia from falling off a cliff. But with only 3 people left alive, the killer must be among them. As they reach a stalemate, helicopter rotors roar overhead. A rescue chopper flies nearby, but leaves after a brief search, unable to see through the dense jungle and clouds. Realizing they might miss rescue if they continue this standoff, Kevin lowers his gun first, but Sonia demands he unload it and throw it into the pond. Kevin complies reluctantly, aware Sonia's magazine is full, while his rifle has only 1 bullet. Sonia plans to go to the mountaintop to make a smoke signal, but Kevin refuses to go with her, citing distrust. However, before Zach and Sonia get far, a gunshot rings out. Returning to the pond, they find Kevin dead from a gunshot to the back, his face unrecognizable from piranha bites. Sonia nearly vomits at the sight.
I've got a question for you, Zach. If it's just the 2 of us left alive, then who did this?
The situation becomes more baffling. Coven had discarded his gun and bullet, and Sonia and Zach were together, unable to shoot. Was Amy's vision real? Did an 11th person exist? With less than an hour before nightfall, and no chance of rescue that day, they return to the cabin for the night. Zach seals the door with electrical wire for safety. Thankfully, the night passes without incident, relieving Zach and Sonia. They now only need to climb the mountaintop and make a smoke signal to attract the rescue helicopter. With the sun not yet risen, the mountaintop is shrouded in fog, visibility limited to a few meters. Zach's foot injury hasn't healed, so Sonia collects firewood. They maintain constant dialogue to track each other's positions. Suddenly, Sonia hears footsteps and raises her gun alertly. Zach calls out to Sonia, but gets no response. Unable to see through the thick fog, the black-clad figure picks up the gun and emerges from the mist, wearing Dead Carlos's wrestling mask, cornered at the cliff's edge. Zach can't understand how an extra person could be on the plane. The figure silently responds with a bullet. Sonia wishes to die with clarity, so the black-clad grants her request and removed his mask. Soon after, the rescue helicopter discovers the signal transmitter on the mountaintop. Searching the area, they quickly find the plane wreckage. There are only 9 neatly arranged bodies, along with evidence of survival, a distillation device, and extinguished campfire. The captain orders the bodies bagged and transported to the military camp, while he stays to search for the missing 10th person. The airline manager, Cora, seems to have anticipated the Mexican military's body transport today, monitoring the landing helicopter from just outside the camp. Shortly after the bodies are placed in the morgue, one body bag suddenly moves. A knife cuts through from inside, and the corpse crawls out. He's wearing Dan's striped t-shirt, but the mirror reflects Kevin's face. There was no 11th person. Kevin was the killer of all. Meanwhile, a forensic doctor was sent to the military camp in the desert to perform an autopsy. Cora pretends to be a lost reporter to ask her where the barracks are. After establishing her forensic identity, Cora pulls out a pistol. Using the examiner's uniform and credentials, she enters the camp unchallenged. The receiving officer, unsuspecting, leads her to the morgue. However, they're stunned to find all body bags and corpses cut open. It's revealed that Kevin and Cora are a couple, masterminds behind the plane's drug smuggling operation. Kevin used the corpses to hide drugs, something the Mexican military would never suspect. After retrieving all cocaine, Kevin and Cora start splashing flammable cleaner to destroy evidence. Claire arrives at the camp to identify her husband Zach's body, but as she approaches the morgue, a violent explosion occurs. A car speeds towards the camp gates, engaging in a fierce shootout with soldiers. In the chaos, no one clearly sees the occupants as the car crashes through the barrier and escapes. The entire morgue and its contents are incinerated. Believing all witnesses dead, Kevin feels secure. He returns home for a passionate encounter with Cora, unaware that one witness survives. Zach, who fell from the cliff after being shot, saved by tree branches and bushes, he wakes as the rescue helicopter passes overhead. Unable to shout for help, he uses his sunglasses to reflect sunlight, finally catching the observer's attention. After rescue and learning about the Morgue fire, Zach immediately suspects one of the 9 corpses was a living impersonator. The only body he hadn't confirmed was Kevin's, with its damaged face. This explains all inconsistencies. Coven and Dan's bodies swapped clothes to fake Kevin's death. That small airline was Cora and Kevin's drug smuggling front, explaining the suspiciously low ticket prices. After the unexpected crash, Coven feared exposure of their drug crimes and decided to eliminate all survivors. He first smothered the pilot, his accomplice who might spill secrets, then poisoned Travis with toxic mushrooms after stealing his heart medication. Carlos, the wrestler who exercised alone at night, became his next victim. He deliberately led others to split up and seized the opportunity to kill armed Lisa. During this time, he contacted Cora via satellite phone, revealing his plan to use corpses for drug transport. Kevin constantly created panic, causing mistrust and separation. He planted the satellite phone and Lisa's bullets in Zach's backpack to frame him. With only 3 survivors left, he threw the bullet from the hunting rifle into the fire to simulate gunfire, then staged Dan's corpse to fake his own death. The unsuspecting Zach and Sonia lowered their guard, allowing Kevin to easily ambush them on the mountaintop. Before rescue arrived, he overdosed on Travis's heart medication, lowering his heart rate to avoid detection. Thus, Coven and 8 cocaine-filled corpses were delivered to the camp morgue. Zach and his colleagues rushed to the airline company, believing Kevin would relax after destroying evidence rather than fleeing immediately. Indeed, Coven is leisurely preparing breakfast. However, after eating, Cora feels dizzy and convulses. Clearly, Kevin had added the same toxic mushrooms that killed Travis to her meal. It turns out that when Dan showed the video of the pilot's final message to his girlfriend during the crash, Kevin discovered the name he called out was Cora. Being ruthless, he couldn't tolerate his wife's infidelity, but had to wait until now to act for a smooth escape.
You little bitch. Go to hell.
When Zach reaches the airline, he sees a small plane taking off. Realizing something's wrong, he immediately starts limping after it. Kevin is shocked to see Zach alive, cursing as he pushes the throttle to lift off. Despite Zach emptying his magazine at the plane, it still takes off. Kevin smiles triumphantly at the $3 million worth of cocaine beside him. However, a dramatic turn occurs as he flies over the same rainforest where they had crashed. The low fuel warning triggers, just like before. Zach's bullets had punctured the fuel tank, and the propeller stops as fuel runs out. It's uncertain whether his plane will manage another lucky forced landing.